welcome to Lost Media Chronicles, a show which discusses various lost movies, music, art, you name it. Well, I got more Nickelodeon-related material to talk about.
I grew up with it, and so did a lot of my audience. Strangely, I haven't gotten many requests for today's topic, which is sad because it's heavily sought after and it's interesting.
This is the story of the unaired Blue's Clues pilot, Blueprints.
For the unfamiliar, Blue's Clues is a show that ran on Nick Jr. from 1996 to 2006. It featured Steve, a man in a green striped shirt, and his dog Blue, who is, Blue. The show revolved around a setup where someone asked Blue what she wanted to do, and then she'd splat a paw print on the screen. Steve and the audience's mission was to explore the house and find items marked with her paw print that would be clues to the answer to whatever the question was. At the end, they piece it together and participate in the activity. Isn't it strange that it always had to be what Blue wanted to do? What a spoiled little bitch. What if we wanted to have Shovel or Mr. Salt have a say in what we do for the day? How about you let other people have time in the spotlight, you passive-aggressive mutts?
Sorry. Got a little carried away there.
The show's format was unique in that it encouraged audience participation. Steve talked directly to the camera, and there was always a pause for the audience to respond. In between clues, there were adventures and activities that helped pad out the runtime. Steve was replaced by Joe after a few years. The late stages of the show turned Blue into a puppet that talks. That's a phase of the show that most people try to wash out of their memories. It was a unique show and was seen as a pioneer.
Getting Blue's Clues to be a success was a long process.
In the early 90s, Congress passed the Children's Television Act, which required stations to devote a certain amount of time per day to children's educational programming. While Nickelodeon was already catering to that via its Nick Jr. block, they took the opportunity to get ahead. Other networks treated this process like a chore. There were no rules, guidelines, or enforcement, so you often had a forced educational element in an otherwise mindless cartoon. PBS was one of the few sources that treated children's edutainment seriously, and Nickelodeon wanted to change that. They wanted to put some fun into making an educational program, and make a show worth watching not just for kids, but for the parents as well.
Nickelodeon hired a team to develop the idea of a unique series and have it finished within the space of a month.
The team comprised of Angela Santamero, Todd Kessler, and Tracy Page Johnson. Kessler had prior experience working on Sesame Street, but didn't like the dull, static delivery, even if it was beloved. Their initial concept involved an orange cat named Mr. Orange, whose color eventually changed to blue. Blue became a dog after it was discovered that Nick Jr. was already working on a show involving a cat. It was decided to shorten Mr. Blue's name to Blue and make him a her. They wanted a show where the kids were encouraged to interact. The team was given a budget of $150,000 to produce a pilot.
The pilot was finished in early 1995, and it was shown to preschool classes to test it out.
Children loved it, had teachers marking how they would show it multiple times due to how great it was. There were some differences between this pilot and the finished series. Steve appeared in a short-sleeve red striped shirt instead of his signature green long sleeve. Mr. Salt had a Brooklyn accent instead of French. The animation was also cheaper and more rigid. The pilot was so successful, Nickelodeon jumped at the idea to produce an entire series.
Blue's Clues premiered on September 8th, 1996.
It was a success with audiences and critics. It was seen as a game changer. Not only did it encourage interaction, but it rewarded it. Parents also loved how they enjoyed watching the show with their children. Gone were the days of boring lecturing, and in were the days of fun, adventurous children's shows. Other networks followed suit, and a new golden age of children's edutainment was born. The show ended in 2006, remaining Nick Jr.'s longest-running show until Dora, the audience intelligence insulting explorer, took over in 2011. To celebrate its decade-long run, VH1's Behind the Music crew made a 12-minute-long documentary. In this documentary, the pilot was mentioned, which was then unknown to the fanbase. Fans scoured online resources and found nothing. Only existing libraries of aired episodes.
To this day, all that exists of the pilot are the short little clips shown in the documentary.
A song from the pilot on a soundtrack to the show and some concept art was also found. Fans have tried desperately to get Nickelodeon to release it. One Lost Media Wiki user by the name of Victoninian7060, sorry if I mispronounced that, sent a letter to someone who worked on the show, likely Angela Santomero, inquiring about the pilot. The response stated that it would remain unreleased, but appreciated the enthusiasm. The only way this will ever surface is if Nick stops sitting on it, or if one of the teachers that had the tape held onto their copy and leaks it. Another piece of Blue's Clues media revolves around the adaptations it got. The creators often save the green screen effects to make it easy for other countries to make their own versions. While some countries settled for translation dubs, other countries like Korea got a full-out adaptation. The Korean version aired on KBS2 in 2000 and featured a Korean version of Steve named Hyun Ship-shin. Despite being widely broadcasted throughout South Korea and being seen and remembered by many children, it remains elusive. Specific details remain scarce. For years, the only clip that survived was shown in the anniversary documentary. Then a Korean blogger fixed a VHS tape containing a full episode and leaked some images as well as a short clip. It's unknown why the full episode wasn't posted, but it proves that perhaps somebody has the full version of the series. It's different than a lost dub because this was an entire localization complete with its own specialty character and approach. And it begs the question, could there be other adaptations of this series lying around that are also lost that we don't know about? That's an entire Pandora's box of extra lost media that could probably make an episode on its own, but there's too few details for me to really go off of right now.
So why should this pilot be found?
Well, there has been some Blue's Clues backlash in recent years. The show was massively popular and other shows copied its style. Some shows, such as Bear in the Big Blue House, have aged well and are fondly remembered. Others, such as Nick Jr.'s own Dora the Explorer, took the concept in the opposite direction. I and other people dislike Dora and similar shows immensely. It treats its audience like idiots and encourages yelling. Many people blame Blue's Clues for this, but honestly, look back at it, it's like apples and oranges. When I rewatch Dora the Explorer, it leaves frustration and annoyance. But when I look back at Blue's Clues, I feel warm and fuzzy. I watched some episodes for this video and I was shocked at how charming it was, even if it wasn't made for my age group. I had to babysit at the time that the show was around, and whenever it was on, it kept my siblings calm. Dora usually made them more rowdy and hard to keep in line. I think that speaks for itself. Blue's Clues respected its audience's intelligence, and that goes a long ways towards the audience respecting it. It changed how children's edutainment was made for the better or for worse, and you have to give it credit.
That about does it for this episode. Join us next time when that weirdo with the short hair and glasses sits on the couch and talks about dinosaur stuff. 'Cause she's weird. See you later.